Well, good morning and welcome everyone. It's 7:30, so let's get started for the September 15th Downtown Business Alliance monthly meeting. I think there's enough new people here that it's worthwhile to do introductions. So your name and what business or organization you represent, and work our way around. So go ahead.
Oh, sir. Okay. My name is Barb Champion. I am the founder of Yellow Brick Comedy. So
I saw your post.
did you?
Yes, I was going to reach out because I was like, this is going to be awesome.
Oh, yay. Okay, awesome. So anything else you need to know? I was joking with her. I'm like, is this AA?
Kind of like that, yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Julie Grove. I am the new Economic Development Coordinator here at Chaska. I've been here about a month.
Bob Moyer, I work for Bolton & Make, representing the city on the 41 construction project.
Yeah, Yui Storman, City of Chaska.
Linda Hager, owner of Linda Cellar from East 2nd Street.
Jen Angel, I'm the administrator for the Downtown Business Alliance.
I'm Dan Keyport. I own the Chaska Depot building and I'm president of the Downtown Business Alliance.
I'm Nicole Krause. I work for Bolton & Make, and I'm assistant with the communication for the Downtown 41 project.
Mike Wong, City Council.
Steve Ritz, founder of Fitness First, Chaska and Excelsior, and also vice president of the board.
Melissa Carlson with Nicolay Bank in Chaska and Chanhassen, and then also treasurer of the Downtown Business Alliance Board.
And then I'm Kevin Wright. I'm the community engagement manager for the city.
I'm Krista Mark. I'm the communications coordinator for the city.
Good morning. I'm Greg Weber with Bolton & Make.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi.
We're just doing introductions, Lisa. So
Hey, I'm Lisa Oberski with the Chaska Historical Society.
And online, we have, Brandy, I wasn't sure if you were going to introduce yourself. If I just kind of apologize, but we have Jody Edstrom from the library and Brandy from Carver Junk. You both are welcome to introduce if you'd like. Sorry.
Perfect moderator.
yes, yes, wonderful. All right. Now, do we have a quorum with 3 board members here? Is that sufficient?
Yes.
I think so. I need then a motion to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes. So moved by Mel and a second. Second by Steve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And treasurer's report, Jen.
That number on there is inaccurate because I printed before I updated it and I did not want to kill any more trees. So we are sitting at $13,351. That is with the Q3 check in there. There is still Q4 coming. So we are sitting exactly where we would want to be. We still have 2 more months of mailers. So if you remember to do the mailers that we're doing every month in the Herald, it's about $1,000 expense. So we've got about $2,000, $3,000 because we have to pay for this month still, left in that. And then we did just schedule out the rest of the events. So we'll start to see the bills come in for Hometown Holiday, the trick or treat, all of that as well. But we are tracking right on schedule and I have only one new charge to put before the board. And that would be the annual spend that we do to light city or to light Fireman's Park. That is a spend for us of $4,511.81 if we choose to light up those 10 trees. So if you remember, there are 2 parties that support that. The 100 Club also pays $4,582.84 to light an additional 10 trees, and those are the trees that do the walkway and the area around the big Christmas tree.
And the 100 Club also does the big tree.
Yes.
So, so.
A
yes.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, and the City Square Park decorations,
yes.
lights, so.
That would be the only new spend that we haven't talked about, if we want to approve that, or if we want to sit. If we pay it by the end of the month, that total includes the 10% discount, which is usually what we do. So we get the discount.
Well, should we vote on that now or take that under other business here?
Up to, you want to vote now?
Yeah. I would move that we support that. Okay. All right.
Second it.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is approved. Okay. No change on the CDBA funds, I'm sure.
No, no
Yep,
change
okay.
there.
Okay, current business, let's jump right into road construction, and who wants to take the lead on that?
I will. I'll
Okay.
get it started here. All right, share my screen. One moment. All right. Well, thanks for coming this morning, everyone. I just wanted to provide an update on Highway 41 construction to give a glimpse of kind of where we're sitting for our different segments. You know, we have a lot of different areas going right now, and give an update on what the rest of the construction season will look like. So as you know, we are currently in stage 4, which includes a closure of 41 between First Street and Highway 61. Also includes work on the eastbound lanes of Highway 61. Traffic is able to get through at the 4161 intersection and at Walnut Street. And at this point, we are aiming that this will be closed until November. And we'll be talking a little bit more about what that looks like later in the presentation. So just a few things for you to note coming up. So there are going to be some cross street changes. Currently, 2nd Street is open. On the 18th, that will be closing for paver work tying into the intersection and concrete crosswalk. So that intersection will be closed beginning the 18th. Later in the week of the 18th, 4th Street will be reopening. And at this time, we are not anticipating that we will close parking, but we will monitor as per usual and adjust as needed. And as always, our goal is to have 2 major cross streets over 41 open. And we've been really pleased that we've been able to accommodate 3. But as we kind of approach this next phase, we'll be relying on 4th, 5th, and then 61 as well. An additional change coming up, as you've seen on 61, the eastbound lanes are currently closed. So beginning September 26th, they are going to flip traffic to the other side of 61 and begin work on the westbound lanes. Similar to kind of how it's configured now, the head-to-head traffic will be moved to the eastbound lane on 61. And I know Greg has been coordinating closely with Nicolay Bank and Chasers to accommodate with access maps for access, since those 2 driveways off of 61 will be closed during that work. So we've been working with you all to get maps so that we can prepare your customers for that change.
Hey, Nicole, one question on the previous slide, if I can. How long will 2nd Street be closed?
I think a little while, a few weeks. Getting those papers back in is a little bit tedious. I think we could probably follow up with a better idea next week, if that's okay with you, Brandy.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so the question on everyone's mind, what work remains for the rest of this season? What's it going to take to get us from now to the reopening? So before we dive into our specifics, we want to reiterate that the goal is to open Highway 41 this year. That's always been our initiative since we first closed the road, is to get this built and reopened to traffic in downtown, and that remains the same. So now I'm just going to walk through our different segments and highlight the different things that remain before we can get to that reopening. So on Highway 41, we're going to continue to build the roadway base in certain segments. So 4th Street to the north, we're working on continuing the tunnel area and building up that roadway base. We also need to pave that area. In addition, we are going to continue with special concrete. Any work behind the curb requires some extra pours. So there's planter beds and there's, the concrete crosswalks like we talked about. So there's a lot of different concrete installation that still needs to happen. We're going to continue, as I spoke earlier, installing decorative pavers at 2nd Street, continue, decorative pillar work. And we're also going to continue with installing topsoil and landscaping and signage, lighting, really all that fine detail work to finalize work on Highway 41. And then once all of those different elements are in, the crews will be paving the final layer of pavement because there isn't just one layer, there's several different layers. So they'll be paving that final layer and then installing the striping and crosswalks. And at that point, 41 will be ready to reopen. So we can't talk about 41 without talking about the tunnel because that's very closely related to the reopening schedule of 41. And the crews made excellent progress. We're really pleased with how things went over this last month. The sheets are nearly all installed. The concrete box segments, which you see in that lower picture, which is the tunnel itself, those are also nearly installed. So Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we went a little bit even faster than we were initially anticipating. So that's really great news for the schedule. And they're going to continue to work on the tunnel, putting back the dirt, building those approaches, digging out kind of like that top picture, the approach into the Dolce Vita side of the tunnel as well. So they'll continue working on the tunnel over the next month as well.
I'm not sure if we had even started excavation of the last CDBA. So going from no excavation to where we are now is admittedly pretty fast.
And then they hadn't started the sheet installation on that side too.
Correct.
So to get the whole east side complete.
Is that ahead of schedule then?
In the grand scheme, no, but it's fitting into the schedule and we're going faster than we were on the original schedule. So it's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, I know we're all very excited about the progress that's been made in the last month, but if it's still not ahead of schedule, there's still big impacts there.
Well, right, and like the project has kind of morphed a little bit with the things we've kind of encountered, but I would still say we're still on schedule.
Cool. We're hearing a lot of, still plan to be done. Still, the goal is by the end of the year. The original goal that was communicated was October. Now we're saying November, and I hear a little bit of by the end of the year, which makes me feel like there might even be some slip beyond November, or am I reading into that?
No, we're pretty solid on November.
And is that by November or by end of November? Because those are very different things.
I would say in November.
Dolce Vita, Thanksgiving is a major holiday, and so that's kind of the date that if it's after Thanksgiving, that's a real difficult challenge for the wine shop. If it's before, that's better.
And our biggest day of the entire year that literally pays for our entire year is the first weekend in November. And we have communicated from the beginning, we are on the verge of going out of business if we are not open that weekend.
We will not make it.
We will not make it.
And I will agree with that. It could be a real iffy for me too. That's my biggest weekend of the year.
We literally do 4 months of business in one day.
Yep.
So I understand that landscaping needs to go in, but
It's tough to see the pavement down and everything's so close, and then to hear that they need to keep the roads closed to do the landscaping, which, realistically, as someone who worked construction previously for a decade, I know that that's not totally true. So it's tough
to down to though, guys, is that if it's access related, if it's makes more sense and safer for workers to get that in without, because with the future configuration, we don't have the option of closing a lane without closing 41. So the idea is to get as much done as we can to avoid that in the future. So instead of opening and closing and opening and closing, that's kind of the rationale there, obviously with a whole bunch more detail that goes into that too.
Yeah.
But I hear you for sure.
So what I think I've heard from others in conversations is that the contractor has no incentive to finish portions of the road early. Is that correct? So it's all or nothing for them. So when we see Second Street in front of, or between Second and Third in front of our building with no activity for days at a time, when it feels like there could be work happening, it's because there's no incentive for the company that's running it to actually be working all the time on different aspects of that.
I mean, there's a lot of interest here. And I think socially, this has been really difficult with so many conflicting kind of interests here.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of flack from MnDOT as well. MnDOT absolutely wants 41 open, but we don't want to keep closing 41 either. And I'm not using that as an excuse, obviously. Like, I'd rather advocate for the realities of what we're faced with in the businesses and all of that too. I think opening it as, if we could do sooner than that, I think we will absolutely do that. If there's reason to not, then we're gonna have to have those discussions for sure. And we are having those discussions regularly. That's very much at the forefront of our discussions every week.
So can we talk through what those are? Like, what are the discussion points? Let us in on that.
I'm not sure if I'm prepared for that right now.
I was told that we would get that information. I talked to the city and I talked to Greg, and it's been weeks. We were told in the July meeting that in August there would be an update on whether portions of the road could be opened, and if not, why. And so then I talked to why am I blanking on her name? The gal at the city, and when we didn't hear anything in August, she had said we had hoped that we could open portions of 41 in mid-September. That's obviously not happening. She asked me to patiently wait until this meeting and said that we would get all of the detail here on what the trade-offs are and what conversations have been happening. So why are we not prepared for that today?
The mid-September thing surprises me. I don't know that we've ever said mid-September, so I'm not sure of the accuracy of that. And
I actually have that in writing, and she said it's not a guarantee, but that's what we were working towards. Okay. And I understand that it's not a guarantee, which is why we came to this meeting to talk about it today, because we expected more specifics on why or why not, and what considerations were being made about which portions and why block by block couldn't be opened, why more work isn't happening, why it's not moving more quickly on the non-pavement things when the road looks nearly ready.
Well, I mean, we are working. I mean, it's not like every single day in every single spot, but there's plenty of work occurring all throughout the whole corridor. I think nobody in this room singularly will decide that. That's all having to happen in coordination with MnDOT and other agencies too. And those interests are very much conflicting, even to the point of keeping the bridge open. MnDOT doesn't want the bridge open at all. So we're trying to kind of teeter on the line of that discussion as well. And we've really very much held fast on that as well. I think we're doing the best we can. And I know that's a non-committal answer, but I think opening singular blocks we're not quite prepared for in the grand scheme. MnDOT can very much say, absolutely not, no way, no chance. And we are having those discussions. And right now it feels that that's what they would say. I think, if we have a really strong case and a defensible one for more of that, we can take that forward again. But no single person in this room will make that decision.
Wait, so that question hasn't even been asked of them?
No, it has. We've been discussing it all summer.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
But you're saying you feel like their answer will be no.
They've been very frank and said no unofficially. And that's from multiple folks within MnDOT. But at the same time, discussions between the city and MnDOT are happening regularly. I think maybe even elevating them to an extent more is something that can happen. Hearing this and among a couple others in the room, I think is okay. But I don't know that council even makes that full decision. The project was created in such a way that is a cooperation between agencies, and it's not like, it's still a trunk highway, so MinDOT still, you know, overarchingly gets to make the decision, and they can do that by statute. All we can really do is lobby for them to either reconsider and have a really strong case for that, which we've been doing pretty much the whole time. The additional costs that would be associated with that are not, as we understand it, going to be borne by MinDOT. It would be borne by the city, and I don't know the financial constraints of the city, and I don't know if we'd be willing to entertain those costs. I don't know that. That's why this is like, it's not as simple as just opening a couple of sections of road, as much as I wish it was.
That's helpful context. That's not something that's been shared with us previously. So I just thank you for that. I don't know what the hesitation is in sharing that. That's either a MnDOT decision or there's additional costs associated. Are those costs in order to move more quickly on finishing landscaping and signage, or where do the costs come from?
All over the place. Acceleration of a schedule on, you know, I have to reference the contract because that's what our kind of like base value is on all of these things. But any acceleration from that point does cost more. And it also means that there's a prioritization that has to happen with work and materials from just a logistics perspective from the contractor. There are costs associated with that, not just that, but then road user costs. There's, you know, contingency costs as well. If we decide to forego certain work now while it's closed and push it to next year, that all costs extra. All work that gets pushed into next year is all more expensive, and MnDOT is not going to have any part in those costs, or at least they're saying that. And I think they have a strong case for not entertaining that, because everything that we have done to make this project happen at all has come with their cooperation as well. And not to mention too that, you know, the framework for this whole project came from a place where, you know, during concept and study and design, that we were listening to businesses the whole time. The bridge specifically is the easiest and best example. MnDOT wanted nothing to do with keeping that bridge open at all. Like full stop. In fact, there's still on occasion, you know, giving me comments that, why don't we just close it? It would be easier from a traffic control perspective, and from a MnDOT perspective, when that's your primary focus, it is. It's way easier just to keep it closed. But the city the whole time has been pushing back from MnDOT and kind of pulling out all the stops to maintain that, and, you know, do anything that it takes to continue that sway who we need to sway within MnDOT, just to keep it as is without MnDOT coming in and making a change like that. And Brandy, I would love to meet with you outside of this. I would be happy to. I just don't know what level of detail everybody in the room wants as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair. This is helpful. And this is, you know, the kind of detail we're looking for. You're right. If everybody in the room doesn't want this level of detail, that's fine. That's just what, you know, Elise had shared, that we'd get more info in this meeting. And so that's the reason we were attending today.
For sure. And I think, like I said, tailoring the meeting to the level of detail for everybody, I don't know, everybody's going to have a different expectation here. So I think that level of preparation is difficult, but I think
I have a question as well. Has the final lift of asphalt been laid on the 41 between First and Fourth, or is there still more asphalt going down?
Oh, there's another layer. So the only final lift of asphalt we have is south of First. That's the only spot where we have final. So we will need to pave the final lift from First all the way in, the whole 4161 intersection. That whole thing needs to be final lift, but it's enough to get us by, because the south end by the bridge and the north end by 4161 were frankly a sprint for all intents and purposes. That part was incentivized just to get kind of back to like a level of normalcy for access, so that the whole of downtown isn't shut down for a whole year.
Is that even drivable then without that second lift?
Yeah, it's drivable, but anytime you would introduce full traffic without a final lift, like the cars aren't going to do much, but it's the trucks coming through and like changing that regional detour and allowing trucks to come through there will have an effect. And we'd be sacrificing final product if that were the case. It happens, don't get me wrong, but there's always a give and a take for that kind of a decision.
You also pulling that thread low. So when you talk about sacrificing final product, what's the implications by sacrificing final product? We said we're going to open traffic, heavy trucks come through there and provide additional wear on that underlayer.
Yeah, so in order to build the road in the first place, we need to have trucks to be able to build it. So that's all okay. We can fix things like during that time, but it's relatively small. But after the fact, if your pavement doesn't have enough structure or base under it, it starts to deteriorate much, much quicker. Regardless of what you do, moisture plays a huge factor in that too. If you have a rainy day versus a not rainy day on things that aren't entirely complete, it does have an effect. It very much reduces the lifespan of that pavement, curb, what have you, anything like that. All of that is an entire risk.
So then the question, I guess, for Matt and Elise is that if there's additional wear, that wear layer isn't taken care of underneath there, or the underlayer isn't taken care of, and we just say, we're going to push through, we're just going to open it up early, who pays for the cost of the pavement? Is it MnDOT?
Well, the problem is that it's not going to be an issue that shows up now. It's going to be an issue that shows up a few years from now. And I mean, that's where it gets difficult with MnDOT, because MnDOT's going to say, well, we're not going to compromise our highway, because that's going to, in the end, we're going to have to pay for maintenance of this down the road. I will say that, just like Bob had been talking about from the city's standpoint, I mean, first of all, we had to really fight to keep that bridge open. MnDOT did not want to have that bridge open. And, it was not an easy thing to get that bridge to stay open. So I agree with Bob that if MnDOT had their druthers, they would have just kept that bridge closed throughout the entire summer. And, because we have state troopers that are down there, they're trying to monitor the truck traffic coming through. Unfortunately, what we're finding is a lot of the drivers that come through either A, are ignoring it, or B, they don't know English. And so they don't know the signs that's just literally, they don't know the signs as they're coming through. And so they don't realize what type of issue that they're running into until they actually get into downtown. And that's what's been giving MnDOT some real heartburn as we've gone through this. I will say the second thing, and this is something we've talked about with Bob, is, we're continuing to push from the city this exploration of, is there a potential to be able to open up, between whatever sections, first and fourth or whatever, if that were to get done sooner. The challenge that Bob brings up that I think, if it ever got to that point where that was something that MnDOT would accept, is that you have to do that final wear course all at once. So it'd mean that you'd have to reclose the road, and I don't know what type of time period it takes to do a wear course of that stretch of road. But you'd be in a situation where you'd have to close it, or you might have it open for a time period, have to close it, and then close it back up to be able to do that wear course all at once, or else MnDOT's going to have maintenance issues in the future that I'm pretty sure they're not going to accept.
And that would include like just construction time, plus you'd have to recure the road too, right? And
So
then
question on that, if they're able to do the wear course on the bridge portion right now to south of First, but not the other sections, that's not all at once. So how long of a section actually has to be done all at once to prevent that? Because it's not all getting done at once.
Yeah, ideally, the answer to that is as much as possible and as much as practicable. I think we all just kind of planned on with the way the project is kind of structured. We just kind of planned on that area south of First being the one that was like, all right, this one we can't really get back to without a full closure of everything. 61, there's enough room to kind of push people around, and there's just room to kind of close a lane and then pave a lane and do it under flagging. There's room to do that. 41 is not the case at all, not with the new configuration. And that's kind of what that comes down to, is it is a compromise. Everything we do is a compromise.
So, excuse me, is there a scenario in which that wear course does not make it down this fall yet? Because I know asphalt can only be laid to a certain date with asphalt plants being open. and
You're
everything.
right. And no, everything that we're seeing, we're very much pushing for in November. That'll be fine. And typically those asphalt plants have been staying open for just a little while longer. And not to say that there aren't alternatives that are possible, albeit more costly, but within the constraints of the plant times, no, I don't see that as a constraint yet. I don't see that becoming an issue.
I'm hearing, as hard as this is to hear, that if you don't follow the research supported procedure or protocol, the warranty's void. Basically.
That's a way of saying it.
You follow the research supported protocol or procedure.
Well, and again,
And someone's gonna have to pay for it.
well, and again, that the challenge here is that it's MnDOT's road.
Yeah.
And so MnDOT is going to ultimately decide what they're going to accept for their road or not. You know, obviously the city and the county are involved, you know, as part of the overall project, but at the end of the day, it is the state's road. And so, you know, they're going to have to make that call. But I just wanted people to know that, you know, when Bob says that these discussions continue to occur, we've had lots of these discussions, you know, about are there alternatives that are out there. So it's not like they haven't been being talked about. They've been being talked about quite a bit, and really looking at, are there alternatives to be able to do. But did I say that correctly, Bob, as far as, you know, if we were to, you know, find ourselves in a situation where you know, potentially MnDOT might say, okay, we'll allow for a time period from 1st to 4th Street to be open if things are done there before everything else, it would have to close again to do that workhorse.
And all of those costs will be borne by the city.
Has the final lift of asphalt been from 61 to Walnut? So that has the second lift of asphalt has to be on that.
Didn't do that because we had to move people around. Anytime you have to do that, it just gets a little bit ugly, but that's again, one of those compromise areas for sure. And then, you know, if you'll recall too, we were still in there doing work after that too.
Yep.
I really wish I had a happier answer for everybody. It really has been painful to kind of.
So Brandy, you mentioned that there's like a weekend that's like your busiest week or your busiest day. When was that again?
I think that's the same for us and Linda. It's that Deer Hunter opener, so that first weekend of November.
First week in
I
November.
can tell you right now, I won't make it if I don't have that weekend. I mean, I'm past my reserves, everything.
So I think, like, you know, one of the things we need to do is figure out, it would be in a problem solve mode here, right? So in terms of, okay, we have a problem, right? We've got a road we can't open. We've got businesses that are on that brink, and that is their absolute, you know, one weekend that they need to have open. How do we solve that problem?
I think the first, as you said, that both of you, it's the first weekend in November.
Deer opener.
That's the third.
By that time, and again, like, there's way too many moving pieces to even put an intelligent schedule together because they're all weather contingent. And as you can see today, there's not a lot of work happening. But I think we can advocate and ask and kind of just like go down the route of, if we tried to open for that first weekend, what things give? Because that's not far off of where our schedule is going. It just is still weather dependent. And I think we can look at that and maybe follow up individually. That's okay.
It'd be helpful to understand, so I think from a city perspective and a construction perspective, like, what are the things that you feel are gonna make that weekend successful for you? Is it people being able to drive past the front of your business? Is it less orange cones in certain places so people feel more welcome? Is it parking? I think those are the things that are gonna be really important for us to know specifically to be able to help. We know probably all the orange cones and it's not gonna be all the way done, that's currently not probably gonna be what we have. So what is it that's gonna be most helpful to make sure you guys can be that as successful as possible that weekend? I think having some of those specifics means we can do our best job in helping that happen.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
Yeah, because I mean, that's a question we've had as we've looked at it too, is, what becomes the most important thing? Because, even if we open from First to Fourth Street, it's not meaning that the whole corridor is open there. Is it the people driving, like on your business, it's on Second Street? And so I'm speaking for, we're not far off on Second Street. And so, I mean, I think for Second Street and a bridge being open, I mean, I think people are gonna be able to pretty easily navigate around that area.
Yeah, I would say by the end of the month, Second Street should probably be open pretty much permanently to cross 41.
Yeah, I mean, it is fairly easy to get to my store. I'm sure it's fairly easy to get to Brandy's store. The issue I think people have is construction and they don't come. If we don't have that drive-by, that's a big thing for us. Not that I think that people just don't want to come. I mean, if you watch Facebook, everybody's like, don't go downtown Chaska, it's such a mess. Well, it isn't really that, I mean, it's not that big of a mess. I try to say that every time I get on a video, and people that come in will usually say, well, it wasn't so bad. But my parking is, I have no clue where those people are. And I do know a ton of construction people are parking on Second Street because I watch them. I'm the person who sees a car park and I open the door to see where they're going. And a lot of them are putting on the vests and walking out onto 41.
Sure, yeah, and we've been trying to quell that. I know it's imperfect, but we can redouble efforts on that. It's just something that it frankly is a bit lazy. So I'll send that message for sure.
So that's huge for me. I'm sure that's huge for Brandy because I'm sure people park on Second to go to their store too. So I mean, we've been working on that for how long? And it gets worse almost every day. I mean, yesterday I was out there asking people to move. And then they look at me like, well, what gives you the rights? And I get that, it's a public street. But I do get a lot of workers too that are parking there and staying there all day long. And I don't know how to work on that.
If you are noticing that, feel free to call me on the hotline because Greg is on site daily and he's been the person to go out there and talk to them so that, he has on the vest and has that authority to be like, hey, move. And then you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So feel free to call me or Greg directly if you're noticing that.
Okay.
We had that same issue and Greg was there like, they were gone in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So it was very helpful.
I do agree with Michaela, though, that I think understanding exactly what the biggest points are, I think is going to be helpful for Bob to sort of think about what are the things, if he's having to push in certain areas, what are going to be the things they're most critical, with that, because, I'm pretty confident that the whole sort of Second Street intersection there is going to be pretty permanently done by that time.
Minus the final lift of pavement on 41, but certainly to cross traffic, yeah.
But again, that's the discussions we've been having as a city is to say, if having that traffic be able to drive from First to Fourth Street, is something that, really is a benefit. Is that something that, can be looked at? But again, it would have to close again then to do, the layer. And one of the things I know, at least that we've been sort of hearing from people that maybe sort of keep people away is just things changing all the time. And that there's something to be said about consistency of how we have traffic going through downtown, that if there's sort of, people don't have to guess what area that they're going through, that consistency helps out too. And I do think by that time, I mean, consistency is gonna be pretty easy for you guys to attain.
Consistency should, at this point, should only be increasing, which is positive. Predictability too, because everybody can kind of see where the gaps are.
You know, I can say that I came close to retiring and closing my store. And I decided to stick it out because I thought it was supposed to be done in October. And I thought, okay, I still have that first weekend in November. So that's what I think. I'm not talking for Brandy, but I think that's what she felt too.
Yeah.
And I think that was our big hope. I just had a meeting with all the people in my store and I said, I'm sure they're gonna be done by November 1st. And now we're not.
Yeah, well, I really want to be, and I think again, looking at what items remain at that point and advocating for a decision that may be a bit contrary to what MnDOT wants, at a more limited increased cost is a possibility. I think that's the best we can say for now. Like I said, it pains me to kind of hear that too. Despite, you know, doing our darndest to try to do what we can. And I know that that sounds, maybe it sounds disingenuous, but really like it has been a very hot topic the whole time.
I feel like we're probably at a point for you all that we have communication going out on a weekly basis. So whether we record a Zoom with a weekly update of what was done and what remains and where we're tracking, I think we're probably to that point, especially knowing that we're trying to hit that weekend.
Sure.
So I think that's something that we can figure out and commit to, but it doesn't mean we have to be down here every Friday morning. But I think we should plan on that because I think we're definitely at that final push where we have to make sure they know exactly what's going on and exactly where we're at. From that weekend's perspective, the only thing we've really ever done to support it is just the traditional marketing, the Facebook events and things like that, because it kind of runs itself in that sense. But it feels like this year, maybe we should do something else. And I think we have a meeting on the books to talk about kind of a celebration event when this is done. Maybe we just use that weekend as the celebration event, whether or not make it happen, Bob.
Bob is like, yeah, have that on the books and then.
Yes. But I'm, we haven't done anything down here. And what if we bring some bands and some food trucks and some, Nate's not here, but he will juggle fire for us still, I think. We just signed him up for it. So, if we do that, does that help? Like, what if we get Southwest Transit involved? And even if we're not totally, if there's ways for people to take the bus down and just hang out down here throughout the day and there's music all day and there's food, like, does that support you all in kind of making it feel to the public that it's easy to come down here? There's stuff going on. They should be here.
I would appreciate it. I think it would help.
Because when Second Street was done.
Yeah, that was huge. That was great.
When Second Street was done, we had that, it was sort of it was a block party that we had, and it was sort of a combo between our Park and Rec department and the Downtown Business Alliance. Again, what I'm hearing Bob say is that Second Street is going to be pretty solid. And if you focused on sort of that Second Street area where sort of our core business district and had sort of a block party, and maybe it's geared more towards the type of shoppers that you want to typically see. I'm guessing that it's probably a lot of wives that have their do you have wine tent, or do you have that type of stuff that's going on that could attract more people to come down?
Vote on the wine tent, that's in.
Love it. Like that.
Guys, mind if I piggyback on this because this is why I came? I'm sorry, I'm new to all this. I haven't been to one of these meetings before. So I'm planning on having a kind of a cabaret type show on October 28th, kind of a speakeasy feel, and I'm doing it with the American Legion. We're going to use their basement for the speakeasy, and my thought was to collaborate with other small businesses I spoke to several yesterday, and I will give you guys a card too if you want to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about like, you know, parking and maybe working together and promoting it. And, you know, to do, if we do this, that would be great if we could do this all on that same day, on the 28th, right before that weekend. So I have it planned for, that's the same day that you guys are doing the trick or treat thing. And my idea is, if I've talked to several business owners, and I've heard that on those days, people come and they'll get the candy, but they don't shop. So my idea is, if somebody can provide a receipt of purchase, they would get a discount ticket on the entrance to the show, as well as just collaborating with each other, like cross promoting and that sort of thing. So if anyone's interested in doing that with me or talking further about that, that was my hope, was to, the community is very supportive. And if they're like, we need to revive downtown, we have this big event, that's like, come on, come shop, whatever. And we'd definitely be willing to give a portion of the profits to whatever we need, whatever charity that supports downtown, you know. So if you guys have any more ideas on that too, how to collaborate and stuff. And we're also going to do another one, Small Business Saturday. We're going to do another show down there. So we can collaborate with that as well and try to make it. And the Legion was very much on board with doing community collaboration and stuff. So anyway, that's pretty much it.
I think, yes, I mean, you're right. The trick or treating is great. It gets people down here and seeing what's down here and all of that. But yes, there's not a lot of shopping that actually happens then. So I think if we can tie some of that in, and you're right, just the collaboration, because you have a whole different audience than the people that like the Downtown Chaska page or that follow your, like, the more that we spread that word. So I think we can support both of those events. Brandy, I know you were going to say something. You want to throw it out now?
Oh, sure. I was just going to say, all of that, kind of doing the block party that first weekend in November, you know, sounds good. Our challenge isn't usually in getting people down. I think it might be this year. So having other things to appeal sounds good. What we tend to find that weekend, and I don't know, Linda, if this is true for you or if other businesses feel this, but like, we've heard that the restaurants staff up when we're open that weekend because they typically get more traffic. But we tend to have a line like down the street and around the corner for people waiting to get in to shop. And the drive-by traffic is, I would say, the most important thing to us that weekend, because people are like, what's going on? We get so many new people that come in that have never been to that event because they see such, you know, lines, and they see lines at Linda's, and then they can shop and they walk down to Red Bench and they get coffee. And so we try to collaborate on those things. But for us, I think the drive-by traffic, and then of course parking, but really the drive-by traffic is the most important thing that weekend.
That is helpful. And I think not knowing what things are going to be like that weekend, I think Kevin and Krista, we can probably do a lot of live streaming between the three of us, leading up to it and talking about some of what, like Brandy just said, like, you're going to see lines and there's going to be tons of people and there's going to be a ton of stuff to do. And then day of too. Maybe we treat it like, I don't know, like a Black Friday type of thing. Like maybe we start at 5 a.m.
You Chaska holiday.
5 a.m.'s early.
Put me down.
Camping with us?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, road construction.
Yes.
You want to keep going?
Yep, I will finish it out here. Thanks for the good discussion. So just jumping into 61, as you can see from the photo too, we've been working on the eastbound lanes. They're getting close to paving those, should be happening on the 25th, weather permitting. And we are anticipating that stage change from the eastbound lane to the westbound on the 26th. So that will flip flop. They're going to continue working on installing curb and the median work, and then also pave the first and final layer of pavement as well as the signage, lighting, roadway lines. So trending good on 61, and that traffic change, once again, reiterating, coming up on the 26th. So when that traffic change does happen, just to remind folks, the access to Chasers and Nicolay off of 61 will be closed, but we are working with them closely to provide access maps, and that can be accessed through Walnut Street.
Yellow brick being painted.
Intermittently, we're gonna try to keep it open as best we can. We know that project is completed down there too. We have a little bit of work that we did last year down there too. Would you like to not close it again? If at all possible, that's the goal. And I think even for those couple of accesses of White Chasers and Nicolay, I don't like it to the extent possible. I just want to open them up ASAP on something. That's the thought. But no, for Yellow Brick, we're not going to fully close.
So on the westbound lane, the east border will be west of Yellow Brick. Follow that.
We're going to the bridge. We're going to work it under.
So Yellow Brick will be disrupted all the way to the bridge.
Yeah, all the way to the bridge. Yeah, but then Yellow Brick will still have access. That median on Yellow Brick actually throws a bit of a wrench in things, but it's not insurmountable.
Cooper actually asked me.
Oh, sure.
Follow up with him then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So what's next? We're going to continue working on all those different items we talked through. I think we have some good action items here today as far as, seeing what we can do for that first weekend and problem solving and seeing the different tactics we can use to make sure people are coming down. Jen, we should connect on just ideas as far as events, and then perhaps to your point, doing something more frequently to businesses. Maybe it's bi-weekly to begin with, and then a week starting in October or something, just to give a more frequent picture of how things are looking, because to Bob's point, things are changing daily with weather and just subcontractors, everything. So we can look into getting something set up more frequently. And we will reconvene in our October meeting as well, just to give another update as to where we're at. And hopefully we'll have a good idea if we can meet that first weekend in November mark at that point too.
Yeah, and if anything like changes and we make some positive decisions that are different than what's been shared today, we'll obviously reach out and let everybody know. I mean, on this project specifically, I've done a bunch of these, but this one specifically has been very business focused as opposed to other cities I worked in too. So I just want to throw that out there too. It's not for lack of discussion. I'm good.
Okay. Would it be helpful businesses to have, weekly updates or bi-weekly updates like Jen was mentioning? Would it be helpful to have like office hours with like us or something, just like, so that it's not just a communication, but it's something you guys can like talk through. I don't want to commit you guys to anything, but if it would be helpful to do like an hour of office hours and you and I, we're on Zoom and you can ask whatever, we can talk through things, kind of like we do in these meetings, would that be helpful? Or do you think just like a video update or something like that would be helpful? What would be most useful to you?
I love the idea of office hours. Maybe it's a quick communication followed by office hours. So then if we have questions on what was in the communication, we could follow up that way. I don't know, others weigh in. Certainly, that's just my opinion.
One, it could be set up. I mean, Greg's great about getting around and talking to different businesses. It could be that set up where there's a, where there's this update, and then to say if somebody's interested in this, email the call and then we can get a specific time set up for that. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just curious. I think not committing us to anything, but that's helpful to know like what's going to be most useful to you, and then we can use that, get together and figure out what that looks like.
I've found Greg to be very accessible and very helpful, and that's been my main channel when I have issues or questions. So that's worked for me.
I love the idea that I would just say, in addition to, I wouldn't want people to wait. To go, there's gonna be this meeting on Wednesday, please call me and I'll do my best to get the answer to you as quick as I possibly can. I know that sometimes the message I deliver isn't what people want to hear. I guess the consolation price that I can offer is it's timely.
Actually, people don't have them, in case people don't have them.
Well, and that all of the discussions that Greg has brings them all to us, and we do the best we can to adjust accordingly, notwithstanding you guys. I mean, all of those messages do very much come back to us for sure.
I was gonna ask too, we have our weekly email update that we put out. Is there more detail beyond that that we'd be looking for? I guess I know that those are kind of more general, but is there other details that you think would be helpful to include in those updates from a public perspective?
Just the one thing you can't give, and that's specific completion dates. That's all.
I didn't bring my crystal ball.
Okay, well, that is what I had. Any other comments, questions?
Would it be helpful for the businesses to have kind of a week by week, like here's what's coming up, like not just next week, but like the next like 3 or 4 weeks out, just so we're like down the road visibility, no pun intended. Would that be helpful for you?
Or we know we can plan. So
Then it's kind of like a rolling like window of like 3 to 4 weeks with, maybe that's a specific communication. Randy, would that be helpful for you?
It would be. I wonder if Bolton and Mink is willing to commit to things 3 to 4 weeks out with the way that things change.
I think we can commit to like putting something together. Like I'm not like a dictator out there. It's really like a lot of it is contractor operations and MnDOT. And I'm steering and guiding many times, but I mean, like we talked about putting like a map together of just kind of like what is remaining, like current closures on things. We talked about that concept, remember, Elise? Maybe that's more prudent. Maybe we can start drafting that and going from there. We'll give it a go, Brandy.
Cool.
I ask a question, and since we've had such a dry summer, why aren't we way ahead? Why aren't?
There's been a handful of difficulties without kind of rehashing a whole history. But yeah, there have been a lot of challenges that we're working through. And from a technical perspective, to be where we are, from my perspective, is a huge achievement. But I agree that like the only thing that matters is getting the road open at a certain date. So like I know that that's all irrespective of that. That's the best I can say. So we've actually been really lucky that it has been a dry summer. Otherwise, those issues would have been way, way worse, and we would have been in a way worse position.
Let us remember the 6141 was supposed to be done this summer of 22 as well.
Yep.
So I mean, that got put onto this summer in addition to the 41.
Yeah.
So you're behind.
Well, so that's a fair point to kind of put the perspective there. So like, you're right. So the 61 portion, all of 61 east of the 4161 intersection was supposed to be done last year, but then due to utilities and a whole bunch of other stuff that you probably don't care about, we pushed all of that work into this year. So we're doing all of that this year and all of 41 this year. And that is a lot of stuff to get done in a single season.
And 18 months ago, this project, the 41 project was supposed to be a 2-year project, and we pushed it to 1 year because we said we need to support the businesses and not inflict 2 years of pain on them. So just to remind everyone, I mean, the original plan was 2 years. It would say, okay, how are we going to get it done in 1 year? So we're trying to get like 2 years worth of work done in 1 year. So it's, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I know it's.
Right, I appreciate that, but when you're sitting with your livelihood sitting there and you can't hardly make rent, it's difficult
So we're
to look
pushing-
at that. And we get the question all the time, when's it gonna be done? Why aren't they ahead? And so I can answer now.
Yeah, and those kinds of questions we're happy to answer, even in real time, for sure. Please reach out. We've been saying that the whole time.
I mean, believe me, it's important. It's vitally important that, every one of our businesses makes it through this. I mean, it's important because it's not just for you. It's not just your business, it's your life, right? I get it. So it's on each of us to make sure we do everything we possibly can to make sure that happens.
And Linda and Brandy, there's others out there, they're not here, but Cooper said it impacted him way more than he anticipated. He didn't think it would. The smoke shop next to me, earlier in the summer, I think he said 50% down. I mean, and he's not here. I mean, there's others. You guys aren't alone.
could not impact people, I totally would.
You don't like to do that?
If I could build my project by myself, like in my
In a
little
model.
sandbox, I would absolutely love that and not have these impacts.
Just to reiterate though, when you say first weekend in November, what date? I left my phone in.
Like
What,
the-
what date is that?
Fourth and
Saturday.
I think.
November 4th?
Yeah, third,
Yeah,
fourth, and
fifth,
fifth,
yeah.
particularly the fourth, I think
Right.
is.
So Saturday's the big,
Actually, yeah, mine is Friday and Saturday,
Friday
but
and Saturday.
Saturday is the big day.
Yeah.
But you start on Friday.
I start on Friday, yeah.
Well, that's extremely valuable to know.
So when's the next meeting, CDBA meeting is, what day is it? October 13th, which is like effectively 3 weeks before that week, right? Because we have the 13th, 20th, 27th, and then we have that weekend.
Should know a lot more at that point.
Well, and knowing that the first weekend of November is a goal date, that will help prioritize work. And if things need to give, then we can, maybe make those consolations and plan. Like a lot of these things do take time to like put into motion. So I think knowing that now is super helpful. Like I said, I think that's valuable. But you're right, on the 13th, gosh, we should know a lot more.
So to that end, I think Brandy made a point about like traffic, like having drive-bys. And the tough part about drive-bys, which I think is the reality, is that even if we open up something like a month ahead of there, traffic doesn't just suddenly start flowing at like the original volumes just right away. I mean, a lot of people won't find out for like a month, like, oh yeah, I didn't realize it's open. I don't usually go down there anyway, right? So it takes time for that. It'll start slowly trickling. Even like 2 weeks after we open, it'll still be, I'm guessing, probably like half of what it was, if optimistically, right? So
We may
You know,
be pleasantly surprised. I was surprised this Saturday
So,
morning that
sure.
61 to Walnut open. I'm like, how did these people find out
Yeah.
that morning?
maybe,
I
yeah,
was in
hopefully,
the
I mean,
office,
that would-
that
yeah.
61 to Walnut, it was like,
The other thing that will help us here is when the roundabout opens up by Lyman up there.
And that opens up on September 25th.
Yeah,
That-
exactly.
That gets people back into downtown a bit more easily, so.
Yeah, and I think so part of it is that, when, if we can figure out like what that date is, that we can like start getting traffic through there, or, if we find a date, we need to push hard, or like, and then this is the staging part of it, right? Even though we're not ready to, open it just yet, when we have to have whatever marketing plan we have to get the word out needs to be ready. So it's just a matter of change whatever the date is, push it out and hit go, right? So that's the piece that needs to be staged and ready to go when we already get the mess out, rather than sitting and figuring it out after we get the date, right? Yep.
well, we've had really good luck using influencers. And I think when we have that plan, we kick that in line too. That way, again, it's not just our communication out or your communication out. We've got people who have not millions, but a lot of followers, way more than ours. So to your point, we have a pretty good, we've learned a lot in ways to touch outside of our community and still within ours. And we still have like, maybe that's when we use Dave. And pull some of those things. My thought was like, because we're all kind of in this is still going on and it sucks era, that we do it right now, but maybe we hold it. And it's more of like that mid-October as we push through. And all of the events kick in that last half of October too, between Trick or Treat and your event. That weekend, the Music Fest. Well, the Music Fest is the
That's at
beginning of
the
October.
beginning.
So really it's October when we start to pick up all of the events down here, which the better things look as people start to come down for other things, the easier it is for them to feel more comfortable when we need them down here.
So I love Mikhail's idea of office hours, but I'd like to build on that just a little bit too. Is that maybe there's like just a kind of organizing, keeping this piece aligned and we're on track. Just like, does it make sense having a weekly half an hour, just a quick touch point to just say, hey, where are we? What's going on? What's changed? Are we still on? What do we need to do so we can make sure the marketing is coordinated with whatever opening or any activities? Just because, I mean, the matter of fact is like, we're looking at this as like, 6 weeks away, right? That's not that far. So we need to make sure we're all in sync and alignment, because we miss like a week of planning on the marketing side or something else happens or whatever. that's a lot of opportunity cost.
Yeah, I think whether we Zoom and that is like the update and the office hours, and then we send the recording out afterwards, let's piece through that. But I do think we are to the point where we need a weekly touch.
That's not my realm, but.
But you just get shit done and then we'll be fine.
There you go.
That's how you play into this puzzle. I'll go to Dolce Vita and I'll buy you whatever you want.
Ooh, and so will I.
See, now you have friends.
Well, and believe me too, like traditionally in my role, I feel like the humanity is kind of lost in this, and it's very real here. So I do appreciate that, and I do feel like we're doing a better job than what would be typically considered normal for this. And I'm not asking for commiseration. I'm just saying that we are listening and we are trying to kind of hit all of those items for sure. Certainly more so than any other project I've been on.
Positivity drives positivity though, so on Facebook and things, wherever possible. And honestly, they don't want to hear it from me, so I can go write it, but they don't really care as much. But when you guys are talking about how getting down here and things, that's gonna drive positivity. Any little bit of negativity, people will take that. That's marketing psychology 101. So any little negative, those will run with it. So any positive your friends can do, we certainly will, but like I said, people care less that I'm saying it. So I think that's really helpful. Is all the positivity we can like push helps everybody.
I think the community wants to help too, because I put on just a little post and one day on one of those Facebook pages, like 80 people responded and were interested and supportive. So I think they want to come support downtown. I just think they don't know how. I think it'd be great to get foot traffic down here, like just give them a place to park and have everyone walking around on the weekends. You know, I don't know how, if the sidewalks are open or
well, that's been pretty consistent. But yeah, sidewalks are getting better and better. I think that block party idea is a cool one. I think there are other alternatives as well. But kind of just like putting that all together isn't just like on us, it's gonna be a collaborative effort. Well, I don't know that MnDOT will show up, frankly, but.
Do we have to vote on anything? Because I have to leave.
Anything else with road construction?
I'm happy to stay after and talk to folks too. It sounds like I have a couple updates for individuals as well.
Let's move on to city updates. I normally look to Elise for that.
I'll let the council
Or,
members.
okay.
I don't think that happened.
Yeah, I think from our end, just kind of what's happening at the city council level coming up. Next Monday, they look at the preliminary levy, tax levy, and they will set that, which will set the stage for the final tax levy in December, as well as continuing to look at the budget. Also Monday night, they'll see the concept plan for the new public safety facility. And while that is not in downtown, it does start to drive that facilities plan that we've talked about previously, which would take the police department out of downtown, move them up where the fire station is at, and then give us the opportunity as we move through to look at what happens with the library and a new library facility here in downtown and the ultimate remodel of City Hall. So this is the beginning steps of that particular project. Additionally, probably in the next week, we have actually already started the special assessment for the downtown special service district. And so you will get a mail notice as to what next year's impact is, and that public hearing is October 2nd. So I think that's it from the city.
Yeah, I think again, the other big one is, I agree with, Dan, when you were talking about, there's impacts with traffic from the north too. And so, September 25th, they have all of the pavement that's done going up to Highway 5. And they will have the roundabout open that morning, which will start the flow of traffic down 41, where now it's been diverted around Lyman and down Audubon. So that's going to create more people that are coming down 41 as a spine, as opposed to getting detoured around.
10 days away.
So everything's completed all the way up to 5 then,
Yeah.
on the 25th of September?
Yep. Yep.
Has there been any progress on the City Square West project?
Yeah, so I think we had shared before that we received an allocation of dollars last year, about 5 million. We actually got chosen to be part of the House of Representatives bonding tour. So Dan, you'll remember a couple of years ago, that was sort of the push that to get dollars for those projects, you know, there's certain milestone steps you have to hit, and being able to get a bonding tour is a big one. So they've chosen us to be one of the projects that they're gonna come and visit. So they're coming on October 10th in the morning. It's from 8:30 to 9:10. They have a real specific time, but it's gonna be all the representatives on the bonding committee who make decisions on where they'd actually put bonding dollars for projects. So they did not give us enough last year to be able to move forward and do the project. And so we're coming, you know, they did the deal that they did was like, you know, if the session was done at midnight, they did it like 10 o'clock at night behind closed doors. So we had no real influence on what dollars we actually got, but they weren't the dollars that we had asked for to allow that to go forward. So this is sort of our second round of going through and seeking those dollars so that we can work on a real major redevelopment project in downtown.
Last time we had the bonding tour, we tried to be very well represented by the downtown businesses.
Yes.
And the Downtown
And
Business
that's
Alliance.
something that we're going to be getting out to, in fact, I know next week we're sort of sitting down and coming up with, it's going to be very similar to what we had before, where we're going to have something over by the History Center over there where we'll have, you know, they literally come in a big bus, and then having as many downtown business people there to help say, hey, this is a regional destination of downtown, help us support getting this project over.
We'll need somebody from the board of the CDBA, because I get on an airplane that morning, will not be available. So,
What day is that?
It's Tuesday, October 10th. Again, it's like 8:30 a.m.
Yeah, we'll provide more information. Like Matt said, we're sitting down, we're talking about it more thoroughly, what this all looks like. And so we'll be in touch with you, but yeah, would love your support.
Another thing that I just thought of, I don't know if you guys are aware of, but I know that it helped in Lakeville, some business owners, when they had the parade of homes. One of the biggest and most, actually was on the news, kind of most drawing parade of homes this year is in Chaska, ensconced, I can't ever say that word.
Ensconced Woods.
Thank you, ensconced, however you say it was. And that's right at like that intersection of 61 and where Hickory turns up into
Big Woods.
Big Woods, thank you, I can't think this morning. That house is just right up there, so I know that when Lakeville, a business owner I was talking to in Lakeville, when they had a large, attractive parade of homes house near them, they kind of used that traction of like, hey, if you're coming to see this house, come and stop by my business, and it worked really well for them 2 summers ago. So that's something to know, that there is that house there. It's beautiful, modern, exactly what people are looking for right now, right there. And they're gonna be right, almost in downtown to see it. You can use that. Yeah, so just something I noticed.
Any other city updates? Anybody have anything from the chamber? They're not, yes, Mel.
Me, I'm the vice chair of the board for the chamber this year, and Darren Noble, our executive director, his last day is today. He resigned. But we do have a nice candidate, we'll be interviewing that person next week. Alan Niebling, who is our events coordinator, he's doing a fantastic job of picking up the slack along with the rest of the board members. But just upcoming things for the chamber, on the 19th, which is a huge fundraiser for the chamber. It's the biggest one. We have after hours networking at the Chan Dinner Theater on the 28th. And then on October 12th, we have the first, hopefully annual Women's Biz Purse Bingo at Hackamore Brewing in Chanhassen. Sponsorships are available as low as $250. So if anybody's interested in doing that. Farmers markets wrap up in the next 2 weeks. And Jen, if there's anything that the chamber can help out with this block party stuff, make sure to reach out because we need to work together for sure.
Yeah, I think obviously you're in for hometown holiday, so.
Well, and
Get your
on
cookies.
a related note, this I was gonna bring up under new business. The Chaska Rotary and the city are working on this music festival, the Chaska Cares Music Fest, in October as well, right? That the ticket sales have not been what anybody's wanting, so we need help promoting that. So if we could get help from the chamber on that, if we could help social media shares, and I know the chamber's got an email newsletter, that might be a worthwhile thing to get that in that newsletter.
I saw the flyer the other day. There is no start time on the flyer. When does that
I
start?
think it says on there, it starts at noon.
12,
It
okay.
goes till 10. But I'll get YouTube, Chamber and Downtown Business Alliance over the information on it. But it's a great way to bring people into downtown. It's, Athletic Park on Saturday, October 7th, from noon until 10 p.m. And there's 7 musical acts that will be part of that day. Some really good local bands, but also some ones from Nashville and from I believe Austin, Texas too. Really high caliber artists, a sort of Americana, sort of bluesy, folksy sort of a music fest. It's a fundraiser the Rotary is having for the Miracle Lake field construction to help build for kids who have special needs. But it's, just a full day of music down at Athletic Park, plenty of beer and beverages and food trucks. And actually the headliner artist just had his debut on Grand Ole Opry, or his debut in Grand Ole Opry on Wednesday night. So, somebody that I think people would really like. Zach Bryan, is that the guy that people like? Very much like a Zach Bryan or Jason Isbell type of.
It's a real high potential event.
Yes.
For a community fundraising perspective, but also just from, we can get thousands of people.
Yeah, and it's one that the Rotary really wants to do on an annual basis, and obviously first year events are really tough because you're just trying to get the word out and you're trying to get people to come, and so to me, any help that we can get to get that message out, if I got it to the chamber and to Downtown Business Alliance, if you can push it out to your out to your lists and then try to push it out to other people. It's a way to just say, hey, let's get people coming into downtown. Let's get them helping support projects. People don't have to stay for the whole day from noon until 10 p.m. They certainly can, but you can come and go. So if people come and go, that might be an opportunity for if people are down and don't want to have a food truck for a business or want to come into downtown, it's right in downtown. So it'd be great. It's $50 for the whole day.
But it has been a secret because if it wasn't for these meetings, I wouldn't have known.
Right.
So I don't know how to get it
I
out.
haven't
there.
heard-
It's
I haven't
not
seen
very
anything
well
on it either.
publicized.
It's been out in a lot of different areas. I don't know, Kevin, you can speak to it. That's one of the challenges we have. Yeah.
It's been out on Facebook and on social media and radio ads. Flyers around town. I think Keith.
Yeah.
Put some around. So but it's like any new event, it's gonna take some time to kind of build that. So that's why it's great to have these meetings too.
Yeah. Any help we can get to get that word out.
There's 2 more Wednesdays for farmers market.
There's one more for
20th Southwest Transit thing for that event.
Oh, Carver.
I believe they are.
What's that?
One.
Southwest Transit is involved with moving people for parking for that event.
I'm not sure if Michelle has it or not.
They've been talking to them about that.
Yeah.
That would be really, whatever
Yep.
loop they take comes through downtown and up. And maybe there's a stop on Second Street, like anything to, again, pull people through here.
Yeah.
Is it kid friendly?
Kids can come.
Okay.
Yep.
The only thing I'll say is it's like a little pricey.
What about inclement weather?
It's a rain or shine event.
What about, if we donated, got tickets and then gave them to businesses to give away or did some giveaways? Like that would be.
Yeah. I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Is that what I'm paying tax dollars for though?
Well, so that's, we vote on it. Whether or not we wanted to spend $500, get a bunch of tickets and then give them to the businesses to give away.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think.
This isn't a city paid for. This is Rotary.
And we can't vote right now because Steve's gone.
Yeah, so, all right.
Rotary could probably donate them, right? Fast.
I'll follow up maybe about the busing.
Okay,
But let's
sure.
see if that can happen. All right. We did chamber updates, so that's.
Any other new business?
So we covered a lot of the marketing and events that are happening. But just so we're kind of all on the same page, your spooky tours are sold out and that's amazing. Because that's also people coming down here. So if you want to add more, I'm on the waiting list.
We are looking at one more night. We'll see if it goes, but yeah, we didn't expect to get 60 people signed up for.
What is that event again?
It's Hauntings and History.
Okay.
It's through the Historical Society.
Yeah, and I think I talked to you before. I think it'd be fun to have a Chaska bar crawl, maybe after the. I've done one of those with the for bachelorette party before, and it was fun just walking around the city, everyone all dressed up in their bachelorette stuff. And
I like it. So when we think.
Your story is in there.
When we think event wise, there's a lot of little things going on like that, but the big ones that we are focused on kind of kick off with trick or treating on the 28th from 2 to 5. I think we have 8 businesses signed up so far. St. John's is going to do their trunk or treat too. It's always weather impacting, but last year we had a lot of people down here. Then we roll into Deer Weekend, which will do something different for that, bigger. Then we roll into Small Business Saturday, and I think we can talk about that too. And we've got that whole week then of kind of the focus on the businesses. And then Hometown Holiday, we rolled with the same plan as last year. So in order to save money, we didn't go with reindeer, we went with llamas. So that saves us reindeer are expensive. Saves us a lot of money. Otherwise, I think I'm going to expand the time for Hometown Holiday. We used to do it for like 5 hours and then that was 5 hours too long and we shortened it to 2. But that doesn't feel long enough because the carriage rides are such a big deal. So I'm looking at a 2 to 5 for that event. And we've got 2 carriages booked because those are always the biggest thing that people are excited about. And that kind of wraps up this year. We have 2 more mailers. So yesterday's mailer or September's mailer was in the Herald yesterday and I forgot to bring it. And then there will be an October one, which I think will probably be focused on whatever we pull together. And then we've got our December one, which is the coloring contest. That is everything from an event perspective. Elise already covered the fact that the October 2nd would be the approval for the new budget. We held the budget the same. I think we get through this and we can kind of talk about some of the things that we've left open about expanding and pulling in Tram or Cuzzies if we want to, and looking at how do we continue to grow what we're doing and the support. We We also talked about videos, the 41 on 61 or the 61 on 41 or 60, whatever it is still going strong. They just did La Hermosa that we shared. Orange Ball did a video for businesses that wanted to participate. We were just trying to make sure Brandy didn't want to be a part of it, and that'll probably launch it next week. And then we are going to come back around. That video was very focused on it's construction, but you can come down here. We're all here. We'll probably do a similar one in the spring when things are kind of greening up and blooming, and just talking about that idea of the, what do we call it? The vibrant downtown. Let's see. That's everything that I had for an update. Any questions on anything going on?
One question, the hometown holiday, you said 2 to 5, which isn't a problem, except that usually the carriage rides, they only go to 4 because it gets dark and they don't have the horses and such going on. So would, that said, would then the carriage rides run?
So let me talk to her, because she's fairly flexible, and it could be because the carriages are such a draw. It could be that maybe we just pop up the Christmas music and the carriages earlier and let people come down, and then Santa and all of the other stuff that leads up to the tree lighting happens as we get closer to 5. So I'll play with that a little bit, and otherwise that's everything. We can work and figure out like the cadence and how we want to do it. If it's office hours, then I'll communicate that out.
Yep.
Otherwise, we do have the 10:13 meeting. Obviously, we're going to have to finalize a lot of stuff prior to that meeting. So we'll be coming with kind of the plan at that point, and we'll just have to communicate it out via video and whatnot. I think that's everything. Look at, we're on time too.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Wonderful. Well, with that, I think we can adjourn. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yeah.